Gotcha.
All right. You want to do the intro?
Sure.
All right. All right. 3, 2, 1.
¿Qué pasa, campeones? Welcome to the Churros y Tácticas podcast. It is Monday, the 28th of November. Happy birthday, Viv, my big sis. Happy birthday to my grandmother, 96 years old. Happy birthday to anybody else. Yeah, they both cumpleaños hoy. Happy birthday to anybody else listening, and welcome to the Churros y Tácticas podcast once again on Monday for everybody out there, not just for the Patreons. So we got a lot to get through. We got a lot of World Cup stuff to get through. As we speak, Brazil and Switzerland have finished playing 1-0 to Brazil. Casemiro with the goal. Kian, I was in a car driving back from studio, so I missed most of the game. Because I was just explaining to you, my schedule is basically we record at 5 on the dot. So by the time I get out, it's usually 6. In the cases of these games, at least, 5 o'clock kickoff, that's Central European time, I miss pretty much the entire game. Unless I'm at home, driving home, and then I have it playing here, which of course I would never do. Not even when
never.
Oranje plays.
Yeah. Right? None of us have ever done that. None of us have ever put World Cup on while driving. It's a terrible idea. Wait, what? So is it a live show?
No, well, we record it live, so they then broadcast it at 7. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like, what happens if Rafinha scores, for example, while you're recording? Or you just don't touch that?
No, we cannot. It's very awkward, dude. So I can't even really say today Switzerland and Brazil play because this will broadcast until tomorrow, 7 o'clock, right? So I have to be as neutral as possible. So we only basically cover yesterday's results, and then we refer to like whatever Group E. Let's say yesterday Spain were held to a 1-0 draw against Germany, et cetera, and then I'll then go to the schedule and then say up next, Rafinha's Brazil play against Switzerland, and Ronald Araujo's Uruguay will face off against. Who are they playing again? I forget now. South Korea?
They play Portugal today. Portugal. Yeah.
Today. Sorry, that's the 8 o'clock kickoff. Yes. Yeah. So it's like you can't make a reference to time, and it gets awkward. Sometimes I fuck it up. I'll be like today, and I'm like today, and then you got to keep going. So it's live, right? So we do it in one go.
I'm not sure I'd be able to do that. I can't. I don't think I'd be able. I'd mess up for sure. Like that's hard. Because like. The World Cup is such a blur to me that like I feel like you really have to strike when the iron is hot. It's a time sensitive topic each thing that happens. Like I don't like we're going to talk about Spain Germany today. I already forgot everything about it. Unless I go read my notes, I don't know what happened. I barely remember the Brazil game that just happened. I watched that today.
We were just saying it's Groundhog's Day basically.
It is, yeah. And like you just like if you say something about like 2 games ago, no one cares. Like that's irrelevant now. Like no one. You gotta like. I listen. I kind of complaining, but at the same time have to appreciate the moment we're in because soon it's gonna just. It's once the knockout stages start, they're gonna get breaks, and so there's gonna be days without football and stuff like that. So well, let's just appreciate the flurry now and that these are fun adrenaline fueled times. So yeah,
they really are. It is special. I mean, now it obviously the World Cup is well on its way. We have our first teams eliminated. Shout out to Canada, rest in peace. The second team to have dropped from the competition officially. A moment of silence for our boy Kian Sobani and our Canadian listeners.
Let's do 5 seconds of silence.
Fine. I think that was appropriate amount of silence. I mean, obviously I root for Canada. Besides you, my boy Kian Sobani, Mazen Shehab, who I know is let's say sporadic listener to the podcast, but I was in conversation with him yesterday. Didn't realize that was the first. It was historic because it was the first ever Canadian goal in the World Cup.
That's right.
My intention, yeah.
Well, we've been in the World Cup only one other time. It was 1986, and we didn't score a single goal.
Right. So
it's
go on.
Well, it's just like the way we played against Belgium was encouraging, and
Yeah,
then
it was.
our start against Croatia was encouraging as well. And so when you're playing good and it looks good, your expectations start to go all over the place. You're like, wait a minute, are we like able to beat anyone? Can we do this? And then all of a sudden, by the end of it, you realize there's a big gulf.
Right, right.
And so I think for me
Experience. Yeah.
experience
It counts.
and also just tactics,
Hmm.
all that stuff. Like to me, and also talent. I mean,
Sure.
Alphonso Davies is amazing. We have some good players, but also we had a lot of older players who physically couldn't run. We were gassed because we're a really aggressive, high pressing side, and in the second half we couldn't walk anymore. And so, but for me personally, I was actually happy because I was like, okay, it doesn't feel heartbreaking to lose anymore because it just means it was clear that we were not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
Sure.
had we have like gone and like played well for the whole game and scored 2-3 goals, it would have been more heartbreaking to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this way, it's like, okay,
moments.
we accept it.
I mean, there were moments where, it was just great goalkeeping by Bojan on 2 occasions in the second half that kept you from actually leveling the score 2-2. And then
other way around.
No.
You guys is our goalkeeper.
Oh, sorry. But no. I'm confusing. Hold on. What's the Croatian goalkeeper? I swear that was Bojan.
I'll pull it up. It was this is Patreon edition, so it's okay if we mess up.
Is it Patreon?
People know our shtick by now. Livakovic.
Oh, geez. Well, because Bojan is also like a Croatian last name. He must have.
Well, he's a Croatian Serb.
Well, there you go.
And
but I was referring to the Croatian goalkeeper. It was my impression. It was Bojan. That he kept you. He kept Canada from scoring. Like it was close. It was close.
Did you follow at all, like the beef between Canada and Croatia at all?
No, what's this?
So after the Canada-Belgium game, our coach Herdman was like the camera caught and the mic caught him in the huddle with the Canadian national team. They were all consoling each other. They were like, "Okay, we lost against Belgium," and the coach goes, basically said a bunch of stuff like to pick up the spirits, and he was like, "It doesn't matter because we're gonna fuck Croatia." And then this became a thing. The Croatian papers took it really out of context. They had him on the paper, and they photoshopped his face on a naked body with a Canadian flag on his balls. And it was like a dot, the Canadian flag on his balls. And it was
we're talking about a high quality newspaper here, obviously. Yes.
It was, I mean, it was like the equivalent of like a Croatian marca, or like here we have Toronto Star, Toronto Sun. And they put the Canadian flag on his balls, like really small. And they were like, "We hope your balls are as big as your mouth." And so this became a thing. And then after the game, because Canada too, our style of play is we trash talk. We're very physical.
They were like not afraid to push around.
Yeah, Belgium, Croatia, both of those games, and all the qualifiers we were getting in fights.
Yeah.
And so after the game, Kramaric, I think it was interviewed in the Croatia team, and he was like, shout out to Canada's coach who gave us motivation and showed that who it was who basically did the fucking. And so good beef now between Canada and Croatia. I'm hoping that we draw them in the 2026 World Cup.
I'll take it. That'll be fun to see a part 2 over there. Because clearly, I mean, Canada, like you said, I think have the talent and a foundation there to build on. And obviously, the World Cup will be hosted, the 3 nations, Canada being one, and magic happens in these World Cups. So in these kind of games as well. So and rivalries, history is written and rivalries are made in these kind of periods. So good. That'll be something to look out for. But so that's Canada, España, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I need to ask you something.
Sure.
There's an anti-España sentiment I'm sensing from the managing Madrid camp.
No, I think it's more the managing Madrid crew is supporting all of Real Madrid's players. So in that game, it was Rudiger, Asensio, Carvajal. And then a neutrality that kind of is cast on the whole game in a game like that.
Well, how's that neutral? You have more players on the Spanish camp, if anything.
No, I think it's more like you're happy if anything happens. If Asensio scores, you're happy. If Carvajal gets a goal line clearance, you're happy. If Rudiger scores, you're happy. And
I didn't see Morata being celebrated. You know, he's an ex-Madridista.
Calling Morata anything close to a Madridista is like calling you a Madridista. He's a colchonera, a colchonero Madridista. He'll be a culé soon, probably before he retires. I don't think there's any.
If Xavi would have his way, he would. Yeah, I guess so.
Wasn't that far off in the summertime?
No,
hey, man,
that's what I'm
shout
saying.
out to Morata, who's playing well.
But so there's no anti España sentiment.
No, I mean not from the crew that. I mean, no one on the crew was Spanish except.
Are you rooting for Spain?
Yeah, I mean, I always support Spain in every international tournament.
Are you? So, how did you watch Spain Germany? It was a big one. I mean, me, quite frankly, there are draws that leave you with better or worse sentiment, better or worse feeling. Yeah. I walked away satisfied despite letting 3 points slip and automatic, qualification to the knockout phase. But
yeah, I thought
it was good.
I think you have probably more of a Spanish perspective than I do. I mean, like when Spain, I mean, throughout my entire childhood life, I was on the edge of my seat supporting Spain. And when Spain lost to Italy in the Euros, I was gutted, just like destroyed. I was so sad. In a game like this, I kind of knew that even a draw was not a big deal. And I want Rudiger to progress. So okay. I didn't want Germany to be out in this game. And I just knew that Spain, no matter what, are just going to go through. So I wasn't worried about Spain in this game. I thought Spain played really well. I thought there were definitely moments you're like, whoa, like that at the very end when Sané gets that break, you're like, what? Where did this come from? All of a sudden, you might lose this game in the last second.
Oh, it was crazy.
That was insane because as we spoke about before the game, imagine if Germany beats Spain. Yeah. Then this group is wide. I didn't think Costa Rica were going to beat Japan, but they did.
Now all of a sudden, Costa Rica maybe not that bad. I think we can really start getting very excited about this team. And if anything, those that were perhaps overly critical can also kind of take a step back and recognize the achievements of this Spanish squad under Lucho's command, right? I mean, we talked about it in the last pod. We didn't even mention, and that kind of slipped afterwards. I thought, damn, I didn't bring up the whole UEFA Nations League point. That, okay, take that for what it's worth. It's still in the final. I mean, Spain, I'm sorry, are still in the final four of the UEFA Nations League with an option to win that. Obviously, in the last Euros, they got to the semifinals. We all felt, rightfully so, that they deserve to have a face-off against England for what have been amazing Euros final. Imagine that England against that Spain would have been fireworks. With all that being said, the 7-0 against Costa Rica was sort of, it's Costa Rica. They were poor. Now Costa Rica actually defeats Japan, that, que plantó la cara, that really stuck it to Germany, walked away with the 3 points. All of a sudden, we maybe need to see them in a different light as well. And then you have this game against Germany that also perhaps, and for, again, not that I've been critical with Flick's performance as head coach of Germany. My beef with them is my silly little, petty rivalries that I have. Like, it's the equivalent to Real Madrid. I mean, they are on par.
What were you feeling when Rudiger scored, of all people? The German Real Madrid center back 1-0 against Spain, then got disallowed. I was thinking of you. I was like, oh man, this must suck for Diego. But
yeah, I celebrated that disallowance like it was a goal, obviously. So I was very happy. But the point being is that, Hansi Flick has been doing a solid job with his Germany team that is obviously in a very tough situation, but that still has a lot of quality to know how to play very good football. And last night we saw a Lucho against Hansi that was quite fun to see, pleasant to see, despite obviously the low score, the 1-0. I think this game could have finished 3-0 and we would have necessarily been surprised. Spain without one superstar, with a very impressive midfield, Pedri, Gavi, Busquets, again, for me, are just the engine. The way Pedri moves, there was one, I think I retweeted as well. There was an aerial shot of like from a drone. You saw that? That was beautiful. Yeah. Watching them move like that gives you an entirely, at least me, perspective on how that game is played and how it's so much like chess. And seeing the German squad also kind of, their defensive line move according to Spain's passes, and then ending up, the passing is so nice, it ends up with Dani Olmo, who then has that wicked shot against the crossbar and unfortunately doesn't go in. But it was, I enjoyed watching that. And I had a profound respect as well for Germany. I felt that, you mentioned the Sané moment, if they would have walked away with the 3 points, you would have been like, well, the better team won on the night, because I thought it was very much on par in that sense. And again, just very proud of Lucho's work with this team as well. I think, again, his idea as a coach is really being illustrated and putting out on display at the highest level. In the World Cup tournament, Spain has to be taken serious. These guys can go all the way to the final, and I think Germany still can as well.
That's a pretty good assessment, and I'm curious to ask you some more questions about this, because my assessment was similar in that I think Spain and Germany in this particular game were pretty close. If I had to pick one team that was better, I think Spain was a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But I also think if Sané had to score at the end, it would have been a deserved result that they would have won that. I mean, that was tight. It was tight, and I mentioned this last night too, that games like this, when it's two teams who are technically really gifted and they have two coaches who are really smart tactically, sometimes it's not like this entertaining 5-5 game. It's just more of a chess match.
Right.
And some people may have found that boring. I actually, I thought it was a good game. I thought it was interesting. Did I just break up for a second there?
No, no, you're good.
Right. So what is interesting though to me is that as good as Spain were, it's like the same things, the same questions that we've always had about them is like, we discussed, maybe they go out of the group stages, maybe they win the World Cup final. There is that variance in their play. I felt within this game, you saw some of that variance where there's like stretches where like they're toying with Germany.
Right.
And then there was stretches like, what the fuck was that? What happened there? And I feel like there is that concern of like, you go into a knockout stage game, you play amazing, quote unquote, amazing football. All it takes is 1 moment, 2 moments of slippage, and you get burned. And in this game, so because both Spain and Germany were pressing high, it seemed like almost they were taking turns giving the ball away as well in the press. For Germany, a bunch of players, including Neuer. For Spain, it was Carvajal, Unai Simon, Laporte. Especially in the second half, Busquets had 1 or 2. And then there are like the question of like Rodri at center back has like obviously worked at Costa Rica, nothing to worry about there. That Sané chance at the end, it was Rodri just looking at Sané, walking by him and then pointing to someone to take him. There's no one there, maybe because he's used to a center back being behind him and he's not used to that role. And I'm not even going to say it's his fault. This is just something he's naturally feels. His instinct for the game is as a
that's his instinct. Midfielder. Correct.
Yeah. And so there's questions like that. I don't love the performance of the right wing. Thought Carvajal was poor.
Yeah,
I thought
he looked poor.
When Nico Williams came in, it was a source of anxiety because he looked like he wasn't up for the occasion. A lot of poor touches. So there's that concern. And then there's like all these amazing things happening also. Like, so I don't just like, it's not perfect is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I guess I could just see that this team could dominate anyone, but also there's room for slippage there that I'm concerned about.
As a Madridista, and I can say that as a culé as well. I mean, I have over the years, the moments, and I've never been shy of admitting my, Holland and Spain are my two teams. That's always been the case. I've never been shy, despite being culé, to support Spain. Even now in the office, it can get awkward, you might think, and sometimes it does, perhaps. But to sort of support Spain and parade that around is like, yes, vamos España. Saying that, so my point being, I looked forward to the moments where I could support like a Kiko or a Raul, or you know what I mean, players from the other side, a Mendieta, that you can root for once they play for your team. My question, Kian, is as a Madridista, are you sort of silently wishing and like all culés that Lucho plays Ansu a little more in those moments instead of bringing in Nico on, or
I was shocked Ansu didn't get on the field, and this is like this is the variance you can get with Luis Enrique. It is sometimes random, and it's like, in what world is Nico Williams a better option than Ansu? I don't know.
Right.
Like, no one can sit here and give a logical, tactical explanation for that. But you just have to be like, oh, well, we believe in Lucho because he knows what he's doing. And I'm not saying that's wrong to think that, but I'm just saying that these are the moments you're like, should Rodri be playing center back against Mbappe? Should Nico Williams be coming on in a game where against like was that his first World Cup appearance ever? Right? Must have been. I'm not counting, but I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So was he up for the billing? Did someone with more leadership experience needed to come on?
He was taken off the ball. He was dispossessed. He was a good player. And look, he looked like he really wanted to do good. And there were moments where you did get, kind of el dinamismo, this energy and vibrance that he has in his play from him. But from my feeling, he got taken off the ball and dispossessed far too easily and too often as well. And that started to get increasingly more frustrated. I was also surprised that Dani Olmo played like the full 90 minutes. Again, no knock on Dani. I think has had two stellar games, but under Lucho, who is rotating a lot and has, of course, a deep bench as well. Like, really, did he get to play the full 90 minutes? I don't know. These are things probably that I would like to ask Luis Enrique himself on his Twitch or something and see what he would have to say about that. And maybe I will. I was thinking, fuck, maybe I will try to do that. I don't know.
Well, the question of who's going to score the goals, obviously, it's a silly question to ask after Spain wins 7-0. No one's talking about it after that game. But, with Ferran missing a couple great chances in the first half, Morata coming in and taking his chance in the second half, you wonder where Lucho will, how Lucho will see that. Will Morata eventually become a starter for that reason? He doesn't bring the same defensive balance and pressing that, some of the other false nines will bring, but he maybe is a more reliable finisher. I know it's kind of silly to say that about Morata, but he's played well this tournament.
And his goals are always top notch as well. I mean, like, that's the thing. His goals are always clutch. I mentioned it right before. He doesn't score often, but when he does, they're either of utmost importance or they're just very nice goals. They're beauties. And this one, again, it was a really good goal and obviously very important as well.
What's also, I mean, the midfield, I don't really have much concern over, right? Like Pedri's playing awesome right now. He's clearly a strength in the midfield. The others that come and go, like, Koke is not someone I trust that much.
Pay Gavi his props a little bit. Go on.
No, I think Gavi's been good. I just don't rate him on the Pedri level, which I think you agree with anyway. But
yeah, but I rate him a lot higher than you do. That's for sure.
That's fine. But I think, like, I really enjoy watching Pedri play. Gavi sometimes just feels like he's just running around kicking people from my leg. But
I saw your tweet. I don't know if it was your tweet or Managing Madrid's tweet, and that was after I had tweeted about Gavi and Goretzka. Man, Goretzka was going to town on Gavi, and the ref was never calling anything. At some point, the little teenager has to bite back and stand up for himself. I commend that, if anything. But it was all Goretzka going after Gavi, man. He was getting kicked around like, it was boys against men. But he can't keep, that's not Gavi's nature. Gavi is a feisty little dude.
I admire the fight. I admire the fights. I like that. I like that about. He's someone I'd like to have on my team and not have to face. And but the point about it's like he does have a knack of just he's either going to win the ball or break some bones. Like and it's just like that part of it is like he's definitely gonna injure like at least 20 people before he retired. Camavinga, by the way, is the same thing. It's not even a bias. Camavinga, one of his weaknesses is that he gets a yellow card like within seconds of playing. Like he just goes and he tackles someone. So yeah, it's did we
so
figured it out at one point, right?
Defensively is where your main concerns, and I guess in the fullback, right? And
the fullbacks, I mean, Alba had a great cross.
Alba is having a good tournament for sure.
Gnabry definitely gave him some trouble on that side.
And Balde is a good sub as well.
The right side concerns me.
You gotta put Balde on the right.
The pacey attackers like France and Brazil, those ones are going to concern me. The defensive slips are going to concern me for a team that is.
Azpilicueta was good though as well.
For a team that is praised for like its ability to escape pressure and stuff. Like if you press Spain, they're making mistakes. To think about like Unai Simon was also picked over De Gea in part because of his ability on the ball, or because De Gea can't play with the ball. Doesn't he at least give you some jitters every time he has it? He had two against Germany, right to the opponent.
Yeah, that was. Well, who was the first one to again? I couldn't believe myself. But was it Gnabry? I think it was the Gnabry. The first big one. You were just like, it was shocking. But it does. But at the same time, Kian, like, this is what it was Gnabry. This is what I watch on a weekly basis all the time and for years. So it's like to my eye. And again, I'm not bragging here. Like, I'm sure the majority of our viewers, our audience, probably watches more football than me on a weekly basis. Like, I mean, I pick and choose what I watch, and it's obviously very centered around Barça and on international level, Spain and Holland. My point being is that I'm used to seeing the goalkeeper being very involved in the game, and whether it's in this case Unai Simon, the jitters I guess come, but he's also, I mean, he's a quality goalkeeper as well. I just don't know how much he would be used to playing as another midfielder as opposed to a all-and-out goalkeeper in Athletic Club. You understand what I'm saying? As he obviously does with Luis Enrique in the national side. He's had some shockers in terms of passing. I'm sure Luis Enrique will be talking with him about it, or I don't know. I mean, how you train at this point, but basically to answer your question, would I pick him over De Gea? No, I feel more secure with an Unai Simon in goal than a De Gea at this point. I think that De Gea's days are done. Like, it's not, Yeah,
I don't necessarily dispute that. The aspect of Unai Simon's ability to save chances, which he did plenty of times. But it's more like a general point that if Spain get pressured, they are prone to making those mistakes,
forcing those errors.
And it wasn't just Unai Simon, to be fair. It was almost everyone. I think it actually was everyone in the back line at some point, at least once in this game, including some of the midfielders. But basically what I'm saying is that what we saw against Costa Rica was a team that was scared lifeless and didn't know how to play football. What we saw against Germany was a team that Spain can dominate in large stretches.
Yeah.
But against a team that has experience and attack and flair. Like Musiala was a problem all game,
Yeah.
And so probably Spain were leaving a little bit lucky. There was that one chance that Musiala himself had. He didn't pass it across the face of goal for an open net. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Muller or someone else was open there. And that was again after Laporte gives it away, and then Laporte doesn't track. I think it was Musiala, or was it someone else? I can't remember. Again, this is why we have to record podcasts after the game and not a day later. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, these are just concerns. And it's not surprising or shocking. It's just kind of like what I kind of expected of Spain. It's a lot to be excited about. There are holes, though.
There are holes, yeah. As there are still with all of the teams as well, Kian. I think all the favorites have had a shock or have disappointed. People talked about Argentina, boom. Saudi Arabia. People talked about, oh, look at England after the 6-2
France
win.
looks good.
Sorry? France do look good. France do look good. If anything, you're right. If anything, probably France right now takes the cake in terms of the hottest for the bookies and favorite in terms of favorites.
Brazil looks good too, man.
Well, look, it was 0-0 for a long time against Switzerland, and again, this is no knock on my beloved Schweiz, but you would have wanted Switzerland or Brazil rather to walk away with a more convincing win than a 1-0, and that's just me speaking from having not seen it. I've also admitted, right? I was in a car or recording a show, then in a car, so I haven't seen the match in and of itself. Maybe it was amazing.
Fine.
Richarlison against with his brace against Tunisia looked amazing. Obviously,
Serbia,
excuse me. Here we go.
Two countries that are nothing alike.
Too many countries at this point. I'm mixing all this shit up.
Listen, I'll tell you how Brazil looked. First game you saw. Second game was obviously Neymar's not playing the rest of the group stages, and so they lose one attacking piece. So Vinicius, every time he had the ball, he had like 5 defenders to beat. Nearly scored in the first half. He did score in the first half, but it was called offside. Rodrigo came in the second half, helped piece together some of the stuff that Neymar actually does. And that helped them a little bit, and they were much better. You should definitely go watch Casemiro's goal. It was a beauty. When you have a chance after this podcast, they look good though. I mean, and they have just so much talent. And when Neymar gets back, they're a problem. They're definitely a problem.
Was it an onslaught? I mean,
they dominated. They definitely deserved to win. Like they had most of the ball. They had a bunch of chances. Switzerland were tight, and they kept it narrow and compact, and eventually, through some really good movement, creativity, Brazil, they 100% deserve to win. It wasn't like a Serbia performance, but the other thing was they limited Switzerland to like 0 chances. They controlled the ball enough in key areas where they basically kept the ball in the final third, and totally controlled the game. Like so. I'm not going to criticize them for only winning 1-0 or taking a while to crack down the door. They're a problem.
Well, Switzerland are just a very solid side. I think that speaks more about Switzerland than probably Brazil, and that's why I said. I mean, I haven't seen the game, but and they're still obviously favorites to go out and win the tournament. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of fun games, the Richarlison brace against Serbia was obviously a lot of fun. That second goal is insane, probably the goal of the tournament. But did you see, I had to think of you earlier because I was watching, we had the Cameroon-Serbia game on in the newsroom.
Yeah.
And I forget if it was the 2-3 or the 3-0 by Cameroon, but that was like Raul-esque. It just reminded me of the old Raul La Cuchara.
Oh, the chip.
The chip, man. But it was like the chip on steroids. That thing went like, boo! It was way out.
I didn't watch the game, but I saw the highlight, and I thought it was hilarious because he thought it was offside the whole time. He was like, let me just chip this over. I'm offside. And then he doesn't celebrate. He just runs back. It was hilarious.
Amazing. That one ending 3-3. We've had some big surprises, some shockers.
Both games this morning were great. The
US America, I don't know, why I was so hyped for it, because that probably was the worst game of the tournament for me so far. That was a
US England.
That's what I said.
You said US America.
The US against America.
Yeah.
The US England one. That was
Speaking of US, is that game tomorrow? USA Iran?
It would be, yes.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
that's gonna be
That'll be fun.
that's gonna be something. It's gonna be something.
It's Holland against Qatar as well, which
Man, what's going on there? That was a disappointing performance from Holland.
very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. Disheartening, even, I would say, because, it's like you want to get behind the little Oranje and get excited for also the brand of football that we're seeing from these guys, and that's just not happening. And you wonder whether it will at this point. That's not to say that we cannot, in the next round, probably knock out the US and move on to the quarterfinals, assuming it's the US that will finish second in that group. If the US beat Iran and England beat Wales, then England will go first and US will go second, assuming as well that Holland can at least get a draw or something against Qatar.
I'm honestly not sure USA will beat Iran.
No? Okay, well, there you go.
No.
So Iran could go
really
second
against Wales.
Yeah, well, that was a big one. That was fun, man. I was happy for the Iranian people to pick up a win.
Yeah.
So you could see Iran go through second.
Based on what I've seen, I mean, look, I don't know. This World Cup, it changes every game, but and the other thing, Wales is really bad. Wales are really, really poor. Yeah. So it's hard to know, like, the US will give Iran a bigger challenge, obviously, than that. But it's definitely on there. I think they're good enough to beat the US for sure. They are.
Oh, let's see.
They have a little bit of a psychological edge too, in the sense that they beat them in '98. And the US there's going to be more pressure on the US, I think, to win, and they have a history of underperforming. So there's that aspect too. It's on the table. Everything's on the table right now. We got like Portugal versus Uruguay too. That's going to be really interesting in about 15 minutes.
Yep. Let's get ready to look for that. I mean, for something, technically, Spain's group is obviously not closed yet. All Spain need is a draw. And something crazy would happen. Or
I'm pretty sure even if they lose, they're like it's like a miracle that is needed, right?
Well, a miracle. I mean, something crazy has to happen. Basically, if Spain lose and at the same time Costa Rica win, then and I think there has to be a goal margin as well.
Yeah, plus they have to like really beat up Germany, which is not happening.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm too lazy to look at it and do them, but like basically Spain, unless God plays for Costa Rica.
There's a really good Marca actually has a great calculator. It's very intuitive and interactive. It's good.
Sounds like a lot of effort.
I'll send it to you. You lazy bitch. All right.
Cool.
Anything else?
Probably, because there's so much to talk about. But I mean,
did you see? I mean, Morocco, Belgium was
Belgium
massive.
Stink. Talk about teams who stink. Belgium stinks.
What we talked about it. I said we were asked, who do you think will be the biggest disappointments? And I said my first pick was I could see Belgium be a disappointment.
It's a good call. I mean, it makes. Are you seeing all the implosion too?
They hate each other.
Did you see what De Bruyne said?
Yes.
And that's not. I'm sorry, man. Like, that's just not something a leader says.
This team,
you can't be like, we're too old to win the World Cup. Remember, imagine MJ saying that. MJ would be like, I don't care who I'm playing with, we're gonna win.
But like he's been going on a tear. Every post match, he lets a bomb.
They should probably just stop sending him after the game to talk.
They're like, yo, can you not go out there anymore and talk in front of microphones because you're killing us? It's toxic. It seems like a very bad chemistry right now in the Belgian dressing room.
I am amazed that not once have you brought up Messi versus Mexico.
Hey, well, you know what? I gotta give it to my Mexican people, man. I have a little Mexicano inside of me. I lived there for 9 months, or I worked there. Yeah. And there's a little Dieguito Mexicano running around somewhere, I'm sure. I love my mi Mexico. Obviously, it was Mexico and Messi. So, and in no particular order. If Messi were not on that Argentina side, I would have wanted Mexico to win. Yeah.
You know, like for a lot of people thought that Argentina was a favorite to win the World Cup. I just don't see it, man.
No?
I don't see it.
Well,
So just wanted to
they
put that opinion out.
I hear you, but they could still do it. They could still do it.
Anything's possible. Do you think there's a chance that Poland can beat them in that last game?
That's a good question.
Lewandowski masterclass. He burst the bubble. Now he has his first World Cup goal.
Yeah.
Szczesny's in form.
They dropped the ball against Belgium for sure. I mean, obviously that was thanks to Courtois, but
no, not Belgium.
Yeah, Robert.
No, Saudi Arabia.
Mexico. Sorry, they dropped the ball against where Ochoa stops Lewandowski.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. Excuse me.
I love how in this podcast we've mixed Mexico with
too much. Serbia with Tunisia. Well, hey, look, it's all top of the dome. Like we said, it's fucking Groundhog's Day every day. It's like a new country. What countries? What? Oh yeah, this here. Anyway, I don't know. I think I don't see them drop points against Poland. No, to be really honest.
I mean, they're definitely better.
Yeah, Poland don't really. Look
I mean, I think they're also better than Mexico, but it also took some time.
Some cojones and patience. Yeah,
and it took a Messi. So
yeah, great goal.
I feel like it's more like the supporting cast is not great either.
Yeah,
on paper, the attack is always pretty good, but it's like the midfield and defense is kind of underwhelming. I don't know. It's this classic Argentina of the modern era, I find.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we got Spain coming up on Thursday versus Japan.
Yeah, boy.
Be cool. And let's watch this game. Enjoy the games. We'll talk on the next Groundhog Day.
Sounds good, bud. Good talking.
Right, peace. Yeah, so did you want to record on